The pressure couldn't be higher for Cincinnati as we roll into Week 14, because this matchup against Buffalo is shaping up to define the Bengals' entire playoff path. The Bills may be the ones favored on paper, but the Bengals are stepping into this game knowing one thing: their postseason lives depend on every single snap. With Joe Burrow back leading the offense and the defense showing real signs of improvement these past 2 weeks, Cincinnati is walking into Orchard Park with belief, urgency, and something to prove. And before we go any further into the latest Bengals updates, before listening to the latest news, subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Let's move on to the new news. Now for the good part: Cincinnati is finally getting healthier. T. Higgins is trending toward playing this weekend, a massive boost for this offense. Both Higgins and Taj Brooks worked their way through concussion protocol and have been full participants in practice. That alone changes the way defenses have to treat this Bengals offense. Jermaine Burton has returned to practice as well, though with Higgins potentially back, Burton may slide into a healthy scratch role. Chase Brown is continuing to look better too, and he could be an X factor in this matchup if Cincinnati wants to establish balance and keep pressure off Joe Burrow. On the injury front, Trey Hendrickson will still miss time with his hip issue, a tough loss, but the Bills have problems of their own. Star pass rusher Joey Bosa is officially out, removing one of Buffalo's biggest defensive threats. Tight end Dalton Kincaid remains questionable, and his final status will depend on the late-week injury report. Any absence there only helps Cincinnati's chances. In short, the Bengals have the momentum, they're getting key weapons back, and the Bills are limping into this matchup. This game is absolutely winnable, but Cincinnati must play with playoff urgency from start to finish. Cincinnati walks into Week 14 with something they desperately needed: health finally trending in the right direction. T. Higgins, Chase Brown, and Taj Brooks are all good to go, and that alone changes the tone of this matchup. Meanwhile, the Bills losing Joey Bosa for this game is a major shift in Cincinnati's favor, especially with how much attention Joe Burrow already commands in the pocket. One less elite pass rusher makes a massive difference. Now let's talk about something surprisingly overlooked. The Bengals are one of the best cold weather teams in the NFL. Jay Morrison from Bengals SI dug into the numbers, and they're eye-opening. Since the year 2000, games played at 30 degrees or below show a completely different story than most fans assume. While teams like the Packers and Bills get the national reputation for freezing weather toughness, the Bengals have quietly been one of the most successful teams in those brutal conditions. Here's the truth: Cincinnati is 7-4 on the road in cold weather games since 2000. They're 5-1 in their last 6, with the only loss coming in 2009 when starters were resting. Among teams with at least 5 road cold weather games, the Bengals hold the best winning percentage in the entire NFL with a minimum of 10 total cold weather games. Cincinnati currently ranks number 2 in the league, so while fans imagine the Bills as the Snow Warriors of Orchard Park, the Bengals have been every bit as tough. And the record proves it. And of course, we all remember the last time Cincinnati stepped into Orchard Park. January 2023. AFC Divisional Round. The Bengals didn't just beat Buffalo, they took control of the game from the first drive and never let go. Joe Burrow threw 2 touchdowns with 0 turnovers, Joe Mixon ran wild for over 100 yards, and the defense kept Josh Allen frustrated from start to finish. The final? 27-10, pure domination. With their key playmakers returning and their cold weather track record shining, Cincinnati enters this rematch with confidence, history, and momentum on their side. If the Bengals want to walk out of Orchard Park with another statement win, the formula is simple: stop the run and force Buffalo to play one-dimensional football. Last time these two teams met, Cincinnati did an excellent job bottling up Devin Singletary and shutting down the Bills' ground attack. In a cold weather environment, that becomes even more important. This game has all the ingredients of a physical, run-heavy battle. The snow, the temperature, the wind, everything points toward a matchup where the trenches decide the outcome. And that's exactly where Cincinnati has been improving. The defensive front has shown more discipline, more gap control, and more toughness over the past few weeks, and they'll need every bit of that against Buffalo's rushing duo. The question now becomes, can the Bengals repeat history in this stadium? They've done it before, stepping into Orchard Park in playoff-level conditions and controlling the entire game from start to finish. And with this matchup shaping up to be another cold, possibly snowy showdown, Cincinnati once again has the chance to silence a tough road crowd and deliver a win that keeps their postseason hopes alive. The stage is set. The weather favors physical football, and the Bengals have already shown they can thrive in exactly these conditions. Next up, let's break down the key things to watch in this matchup as Cincinnati looks to keep their season alive. As we head into this matchup, there are a few critical things Cincinnati absolutely must focus on, and it starts with the defense. They don't need to be flawless, but they do need to continue the upward trend we've seen over the last 3 weeks. This unit has gone from struggling early in the season to suddenly playing some of its most disciplined football when it matters most. Look at the recent numbers. Against Pittsburgh, the scoreboard said 34, but the defense actually allowed only 20 real points, with the rest coming from defensive touchdowns by the Steelers. Against New England, they kept the Patriots to 1 touchdown and 4 field goals, a bend-don't-break performance that won them the game. And then against Baltimore, Cincinnati surrendered just 14 total points, their best defensive showing in weeks. That improvement is real, but the challenge now is much bigger. Because Josh Allen changes everything. Allen is one of the toughest quarterbacks in the league to contain, not just because of his arm, but because of how dangerous he is when he escapes the pocket. 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, those are the downs when he turns into a problem. If Cincinnati wants to win, the linebackers must take cleaner angles, wrap up, and stop letting quarterbacks turn broken plays into free first downs. Then there's James Cook, one of the most explosive running backs in football this season. Averaging over 5 yards per carry, he punishes defenses who don't stay disciplined. If you overpursue, he's gone. If you hesitate, he's gone. Cincinnati's front seven has to play their best gap control game of the season. The good news? The Bengals' defense has been trending upward. The physicality is picking up, the tackling is tighter, and the communication has looked sharper than it did early in the year. If that version of the Bengals shows up again, the version that forces turnovers, tightens up in the red zone, and refuses to break, then Cincinnati will give themselves a real chance to walk out of Buffalo with a season-defining win. If Joe Burrow steps onto that field and plays at the level we all know he can reach, Cincinnati absolutely has a shot in this game. The path is clear. The Bengals must win to keep their playoff hopes alive, and that starts with number 9 getting settled in early. The question now becomes, how confident are you in this defense? Early in the season, confidence was somewhere near a 1. Maybe even below that. But over the last few weeks, things have begun to shift. They're tackling better, communicating better, and making the kinds of stops that give Burrow a chance to control the game. Whether you're still skeptical or feeling more optimistic, this matchup will reveal a lot. Now, the second major thing to watch: Joe Burrow must get hot early. Last week wasn't classic Burrow, slow start, a few overthrows, and the offense took time to settle in. Cold weather conditions can do that, and with temperatures dropping again this week, Cincinnati needs him sharp from the very first drive. The good news is the weapons around him are finally returning. Jamar Chase is always a threat. Chase Brown keeps bringing juice to the offense, and with T. Higgins expected back, this receiving group looks complete again. But here's where Cincinnati must improve: the red zone. Against Baltimore, the Bengals went just 1-for-6 inside the 20. That simply won't cut it against Buffalo. Field goals kept them alive last week. Evan McPherson was perfect,